The phrase sounds like clickbait at first, but beneath it sits a quieter idea about influence, values, and the way messages travel through families and generations. When people talk about Elon Musk's mother wanting you to see a message, they are really talking about May Musk as a symbol, a woman who lived through uncertainty, migration, single parenthood, professional reinvention, and public scrutiny, and who still chose to speak openly about resilience and self-belief. The attraction of the message is not about glamour or fame, but about the way a life story can pull attention without shouting. Imagine the message not as an announcement, but as a letter written to anyone standing at a crossroads. It does not tell you to become a billionaire, invent rockets, or dominate headlines. Instead, it suggests that the most important innovations often begin quietly, in moments when you decide not to give up on yourself. That is where the attraction lies. It is compelling because it feels attainable, grounded in lived experience rather than fantasy. May Musk's life is often summarized in bullet points: model, dietitian, mother of successful children. But those summaries leave out the long stretches of uncertainty, the years when success was not guaranteed and recognition was absent. The attractive quality of her message is honesty. She speaks about being broke, about starting over in new countries, about taking risks without a safety net. In a world saturated with curated perfection, that honesty stands out. When people say she wants you to see this message, it is less about a single statement and more about a pattern of encouragement. The encouragement is subtle. Keep learning, stay curious, do not let age define your possibilities, and do not let fear shrink your ambitions. These ideas resonate because they counter a common narrative that life must follow a strict timeline. They invite you to imagine a longer, more flexible arc for your own story. The attraction also comes from contrast. Elon Musk is associated with extremes, ambitious projects, polarizing opinions, and relentless drive. His mother's tone, by comparison, is calm and reflective. She does not demand that you change the world, she suggests that you take responsibility for your own growth. That contrast makes the message feel balanced, like a reminder that intensity can coexist with patience. There is something universally appealing about a parent who believes deeply in their children while also recognizing their independence. May Musk often speaks about supporting her children without controlling them, encouraging their interests without forcing a particular path. For many people, this touches a personal nerve. It evokes questions about mentorship, parenting, and the ways encouragement shapes confidence. The message attracts because it validates both guidance and freedom. Another layer of attraction is time. Her story stretches across decades, reminding readers that success is rarely a sudden event. It is usually the accumulation of small decisions made consistently over years. This perspective is comforting in an era obsessed with overnight results. It suggests that patience is not weakness, and that persistence can be quietly powerful. The message also reframes failure. Instead of treating setbacks as evidence of inadequacy, it treats them as information. Moves that did not work, careers that stalled, relationships that ended, these are not portrayed as endpoints, but as transitions. This reframing is attractive because it reduces shame. It gives permission to try again without self-reproach. There is also an understated elegance in how the message handles ambition. Ambition is not presented as domination or comparison, but as alignment with one's interests and values. You are encouraged to aim high, but also to understand why you are aiming. This nuance makes the message feel mature, less about ego and more about purpose. The appeal is amplified by relatability. Despite the fame associated with her family name, May Musk often emphasizes ordinary experiences, working multiple jobs, worrying about bills, balancing responsibilities. These details bridge the gap between public perception and private reality. They invite readers to see themselves in the story, not as spectators but as participants. Another attractive element is the rejection of ageism. The message insists that growth does not expire. Learning, creativity, and reinvention are framed as lifelong processes. This challenges a cultural tendency to limit potential based on age, making the message particularly resonant for those who feel overlooked or underestimated. The tone of the message is not aggressive. It does not shame or pressure. It simply offers perspective. That gentleness is itself attractive in a noisy digital environment. It feels like someone speaking to you rather than at you, when people share or click on content framed this way. They are often responding to a deeper hunger for meaning and reassurance. The name attached draws attention, but the substance keeps it. The attraction lies in the sense that someone who has seen both struggle and success is offering a hand, not a lecture. Ultimately, the message is about agency. It reminds you that while circumstances matter, choices matter too. You may not control where you start, but you influence where you go. This idea is simple, but simplicity can be powerful when it cuts through confusion. The phrase "wants you to see this message" implies urgency, but the message itself encourages patience. That paradox is part of its charm. It asks you to pause, reflect, and consider your own trajectory. In that sense, the attractiveness of the message has little to do with celebrity and everything to do with resonance. It reflects back common fears and hopes, then gently reshapes them into something more constructive. If you strip away the name and the implied drama, what remains is a quiet encouragement to live deliberately, to keep moving forward, and to trust that growth often happens in ways you cannot immediately measure. That is why people lean in. That is why the message travels. And that is why, when framed as something you need to see, it feels less like an advertisement and more like a reminder you did not know you were waiting for. The message continues to unfold when you look at how influence actually works. It is rarely imposed, it is absorbed. May Musk's appeal comes from the way she embodies her advice rather than merely stating it. When someone speaks from lived experience without insisting on authority, people listen more closely. That is part of why the message feels attractive rather than instructive. It trusts the reader to draw their own conclusions. There is also an unspoken reassurance in her story that life does not need to make sense all at once. Many people feel anxious when their path looks disjointed or nonlinear. Her experiences quietly normalize that reality. Changing countries, shifting careers, rebuilding finances, redefining identity, these are not framed as mistakes but as chapters. The message invites you to see your own life in chapters rather than verdicts. Another reason the message holds attention is that it reframes strength. Strength is not portrayed as constant confidence or invulnerability. It is shown as endurance, adaptability, and the willingness to keep showing up even when recognition is absent. This version of strength feels attainable. It does not demand perfection, it values consistency. The idea of self-worth runs subtly through everything. The message suggests that your value is not dependent on external validation. Modeling later in life, studying and working while raising children, starting over after hardship, all of these choices reflect an internal sense of worth that does not wait for permission. Readers are drawn to this because many struggle with the feeling that they must be chosen before they can choose themselves. There is also a quiet challenge embedded in the message. It asks whether you are limiting yourself based on assumptions inherited from others. About age. About background. About what is realistic. The challenge is not confrontational, it is reflective. It nudges you to question which boundaries are real and which are merely familiar. The message gains depth when you consider how it intersects with responsibility. Encouragement without responsibility can feel hollow. But here the two are linked. You are encouraged to pursue growth, but also reminded that growth requires effort, discipline, and patience. There is no promise of ease, only of possibility. Another attractive quality is balance. The message does not glorify sacrifice to the point of self-erasure, nor does it promote self-indulgence disguised as empowerment. It speaks instead of balance between ambition and care, work and well-being, independence and connection. In a culture that often swings between extremes, this balance feels grounding. The story also touches on courage, not as dramatic heroism, but as daily decision-making. Courage appears in choosing to apply for an opportunity despite doubt. To move forward despite fear, to continue learning despite discomfort. These small acts accumulate into a life that feels intentional rather than accidental. The presence of motherhood in the background adds another layer of attraction. Not because it is idealized, but because it is realistic. Support, mistakes, learning alongside one's children, this dynamic humanizes both success and influence. It suggests that raising others and raising oneself can happen simultaneously. There is a subtle reminder that comparison is a thief of clarity. By focusing on personal progress rather than external benchmarks, the message offers relief from constant comparison. This is particularly appealing in an age of social media, where curated success stories can distort expectations. The message also respects intelligence. It does not oversimplify complexity or pretend that challenges disappear with the right mindset. It acknowledges difficulty while refusing to let difficulty define the outcome. This honesty builds trust. As the narrative continues, it becomes clear that the attraction lies not in inspiration alone, but in permission. Permission to start late. Permission to fail and try again. Permission to value your own pace. For many readers, this permission is more powerful than motivation. The idea of legacy appears quietly as well. Not legacy as fame, but as influence through example. The message suggests that how you live can encourage others without you ever intending it to. This reframes impact as something accessible, not reserved for the famous. The more you sit with the message, the more it feels like an invitation rather than a directive. An invitation to redefine success on your own terms. An invitation to remain open to change. An invitation to trust that effort compounds even when results are not immediately visible. This is why the message continues to resonate beyond the initial curiosity sparked by a famous name. The name may open the door, but the substance keeps people inside. It speaks to a shared human experience of uncertainty and aspiration. In the end, the message does not ask you to admire a life, it asks you to examine your own. It encourages reflection without judgment. That reflective quality is what makes it linger, and as the message unfolds further, it becomes less about any one person and more about a mindset. A mindset that values resilience over recognition, growth over comfort, and authenticity over performance. That mindset is what people find attractive, because it feels like something they can carry forward, quietly shaping their own choices long after the initial words have faded. At its core, the message settles into a simple truth: you are allowed to evolve. You are not betraying your past by wanting something different from your future. This idea lands softly but firmly, reminding you that growth is not a rejection of who you were, but an expansion of who you can become. That reassurance lingers because it releases guilt that many people carry without realizing it. There is also a quiet sense of dignity woven through the message. It suggests that effort itself has value, regardless of outcome. Showing up, trying, learning, and adapting are framed as successes in their own right. This perspective restores meaning to the in-between moments of life, the stretches where progress feels slow and invisible. As the message reaches its end, it gently shifts responsibility back to the reader. Not as pressure, but as empowerment. You are reminded that while inspiration can spark change, action sustains it. No one else can live your life for you. And no one else needs to approve the pace at which you move forward. What makes the message stay with people is that it does not promise certainty. It offers courage instead. Courage to continue without guarantees, to trust yourself even when the path is unclear, and to believe that persistence can quietly transform circumstances over time. And finally, the message leaves you with calm rather than urgency. Not a call to rush, but a reminder to keep going. Step by step, choice by choice, learning as you move. In that calm persistence lies its true attractiveness, because it feels real, sustainable, and human.